Dude, I have a great idea for a show I want to pitch to you.
Wait, really? Me too. That's why I called you.
Okay, you go first.
No, you.
No, you.
No, you.
Now you.
No, you.
Okay, fine. During the 4th century BC, Aristotle defined rhetoric as discovering all available means of persuasion on a topic. And thus, for Aristotle, hearing multiple arguments, multiple points of view was the key to truly understanding an issue.
Interesting. I was actually going to pitch you a debate show. You know, where we tackle current, hot-button, controversial issues in the world of Magic. We can have timers and buzzers, and people love a good argument.
But remember, there's no right or wrong here. We are entering into a forum of discussion where we have the shared goals of discovering and understanding the truth of a complex issue.
Yeah, sure, but it's gotta be fast. I mean, you can't hold people's attention these days. It's gotta be like 90 seconds, you make your case, 45-second rebuttal, boom, bam, on to the next topic.
No name calling, no personal attacks. After all, we are both academics and scholars.
And at the end, the audience votes on a winner and then determines the topic for the next show. Oh man, the ratings are gonna be huge!
In response, I just want to stress that this is an intellectual exercise.
Well, in response, let me just say, if it's not entertaining, no one's gonna watch it.
In response, let me remind you.
Well, in response, let me tell you.
In response.
In response.
In response.
Hi, I'm Josh Lee Kwai. This is the first episode of In Response, the Magic the Gathering debate show. We're going to start off with our first topic today, which is new cards designed specifically for Commander. Are they good or are they bad? Prof, it's time for you to state your case. You have 90 seconds. Go ahead.
First, I want to be perfectly clear that I am not arguing against having these Commander pre-constructed decks released once a year. In fact, I think that product is one of the best products made for Magic the Gathering. What I am arguing against are the unique, made just for Commander cards that are included within these products. I feel that those cards are in fact detrimental to the game of Commander. Why? Because they're too good. They were made with Commander in mind and end up outshining other cards to the point that our construction options are actually diminished. Case in point, Command Tower. This is a card that taps for 1 mana of any color in your Commander's colors, and it has no drawback at all. So if you're playing multicolored Commander, there is no reason at all not to run Command Tower. Well, now you're looking to build a deck not of 100 cards, but of 99 cards plus Command Tower. What happens when more and more of these cards get made that are too perfect for Commander? Well, they already have. What about Commander's Sphere? 98 cards plus Command Tower and Commander's Sphere. Homeward Path, 97 cards plus Command Tower, Commander's Sphere, and Homeward Path. When we have year after year 56 original, made just for Commander cards that do not have to go through the typical standard vetting, we are slowly but surely eroding our options in constructing Commander.
Okay, time's up, Prof.
All right.
Time's up.
Josh, you have 90 seconds to present your side of the argument.
Okay, so Mark Rosewater on his Twitter recently had a couple of polls, and it seems to suggest that Commander is extremely popular, maybe like the second most popular format in Magic. This means there's a whole bunch of players, and you're suddenly saying that, hey, you're not going to get anything new for your favorite format. I think that's a big thing to say. I think also considering how unique Commander is. Commander is not like other formats. There are two aspects to it. One is multiplayer. All the other popular formats are 1 versus 1 formats, and all the cards designed for those formats have to do with 1v1. So all of a sudden, we can't design cards for one of the most big, unique pillars of this really popular format. And the other is an entire zone that is used in Commander that's not really used in other formats. So now you can't even really say command zone in cards that are only for standard. So now you can't design cards that interact with the command zone. And now we have sometimes 2 cards in the command zone. So that's a really big thing. And let's talk about Command Tower and Commander Sphere and Homeward Path for a second, because Command Tower specifically, I know you make a big point of this, but it's a land. It taps for mana. In 90% of all decks, what does it replace? A basic island? A basic swamp? That's not really clamping down on people's creative deck building. I mean, we've been doing Commander products for like 5 years now, and there's like 3 or 4, maybe 5 cards that fall into the criteria that you've listed. This seems like it might be a problem. In 75 years, this is like I'll save that for later. Prof, your response?
Hyperbole much there, Josh. We already have cards beyond Command Tower that are replacing more than just a basic island. In fact, entire commanders have been eliminated. Why would anybody make a deck around Karn Silver Golem when instead they can make a deck around Sidri Galvanic Genius, who does everything Karn does, but more? Why was she able to be made? Because she didn't have to go through Standard. Who says that we can't have cards that reference the command zone? Imagine if Bruna and Gisela from the recent Shadows over Innistrad block had printed on them the partner mechanic in addition to everything they did. People would have lost their minds with excitement. These cards and mechanics can be made. All right, Josh, you have 45 seconds. Your response is?
Cards get supplanted by newer cards all the time in every format of Magic. There's nothing new about like a new card comes out and all of a sudden that's the 2-drop that everybody plays. And this old 2-drop that used to be the best 2-drop in Modern, gone now because something new came out. That is Magic. That happens all the time. That's part of the evolution of the game. That's nothing different. I don't think that's a reason to stop developing new cards for all these players, tons of players that want and desire new cards. I want to go back to my earlier thing, which is it feels like that guy that goes to the gym and says, I don't want to work out a lot because I might get too buff. That's not a problem. You can see that coming from a long way away. If we get to the point where there's a whole bunch of new cards that are starting to rule the format, we have a ban list. They can pull back the reins. Until then, I want new cards. I think most Commander players want new cards.
Moving on to our next topic, which you will be leading off with 90 seconds. We are going to be discussing esports and whether or not Magic the Gathering is an esport or can be a competitive esport. Josh, you have 90 seconds. You may begin when ready.
I do believe that Magic can be a successful esport. I think that right now it's not. And the real question is, how does it become a successful esport? There's going to need to be some new technology that's either developed or that comes into use. You know, how great would it be if we're watching a game and each individual audience member could mouse over a card and it could become bigger and we could see it, something like that. I think one of the things about esports that's really important is that people that don't play can watch it. In fact, not just esports, even sports. I mean, think about football. Tons of people watch football. A very small percentage of them even played football. And you say things about Magic like, well, you have to understand the minutia to get the game. Listen, do you know what holding is? Do you know what a nickel defense is? Nobody does. They still watch football because if the game's compelling, then that proves that it can be watched. Yeah, there's a lot of problems that Magic has to tackle to become a good esport, but we can look at poker. Poker was and still is a very successful television audience participation thing that is compelling. We know that card games can be compelling. Hearthstone gets a ton of viewers, a lot more than Magic does. It's a card game that's played on the computer. I think also Magic Online needs to come into its own. There needs to be a lot of reform there. I'm not saying that Magic is ready at this moment to be a successful esport. I think that it can become a successful esport, and a lot of changes need to occur. Again, Magic Online needs to be maybe the thing. Maybe we need to move away from paper.
Poker is not an e-sport. The definition of an e-sport is a professional or competitive game that is facilitated by electronic equipment or an electronic medium. Poker is a card game, and so is Magic the Gathering. Magic the Gathering should not be in competition with Hearthstone. Magic the Gathering cannot compete with Hearthstone. Hearthstone is a game that was designed with the visual medium in mind, as most esports were. Everything from Overwatch to StarCraft. And these are games that are visual and auditory experiences, but Magic the Gathering is an intellectual experience. It takes place on the mental battlefield. It is not something that someone can just sit down and watch and become engaged in. It was designed for people to play, not designed with watching in mind. And any translation, any attempt to translate it to that visual meaning would not be the same game anymore. You seemed to be listing off all the reasons why Magic the Gathering cannot be an esport in your previous argument. Fixing all of that, I feel somehow miraculously at times, which would be required for that giant litany of problems that you listed off in favor of it being an esport. But even if you miraculously fixed all of that, Magic the Gathering would still not be easy and fun to watch. All right, Josh, 45 seconds. What is your response?
Magic is a game that's played by tens of millions of players. That means it has broad appeal. There's nothing in the world that tens of millions of people are into, and it can't be exposed to a bigger audience, and it won't connect with them. Think about like comic books and superheroes. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, that was the realm of only nerds and geeks. And now every movie, every TV show, have you seen Comic-Con? 10 guys used to go to Comic-Con. Now you can't get tickets to Comic-Con if you want it. This is a thing where you have to look off into the future and you have to see what the potential is and what the possibilities are. It takes perseverance. It takes a little bit of an experimentation, but I disagree with you. Poker is an esport, or it could be an esport. Yes, it went onto television, but that's because in the era that it came into being, there wasn't the internet and internet TV like there is now. All right, Prof. I'm anxious to hear your 45-second rebuttal. What's your response?
Name an esport, any esport, and I guarantee you that I can sit down, download the client, and begin playing it for little or most cases for free, and within 15 minutes be getting a game where I am already learning and understanding, whether that's Hearthstone to StarCraft. And yet, there is no way that could ever be possible for Magic the Gathering, no matter how well they fix Magic Online, and boy does it need a lot of fixing, but no matter how well they fix it, there is no situation where somebody who has no experience with Magic the Gathering could simply download Magic Online, sit down, and for free have a deck to sit down and play with and be taught the game in 15 minutes.
Magic Duel of the Planeswalkers. They're coming. They're getting there. That's going to happen.
That's not real Magic, though, is
it's going
it? It's
to. I mean, you can learn it for free.
It's not. It's incredibly limited.
That's now, but they can
exactly
develop
what
that.
Would happen because anytime, the only way to make it work is to make Magic something that it is not. Duels
No,
is
just a simplified
a
version
taste
can
of
be available.
Magic.
You think
Right.
that when you play
You
StarCraft
can't
for
do
the
it with
first
real
time?
Magic.
All right. Clearly, there's more to discuss on that point. But now we have to move on to our last topic. It's a big one, maybe the biggest one. It's the reserve list. This is the list of cards that Wizards has said they will never, ever reprint, to the consternation of many. Prof, you have 90 seconds to make your case. You're on the clock.
The reserve list is outdated. It was made in response to the overprinting of one set back in the mid-90s, Chronicles, a set of reprints that would have been fine had it not been so excessively overprinted that it caused the cards reprinted within it to crash in value and for investors and collectors to freak out to such a degree that Wizards of the Coast made the extreme measure of vowing that they would never again reprint this selection of cards that they offered. And here we are in 2016, and Magic is now suffering from this now completely expired rule. People at Wizards of the Coast have stated, people such as Mark Rosewater have stated that the reserve list was a mistake. The demand for these cards, for formats such as Legacy in particular, but also for formats such as Commander, for formats that are going to want to maybe be born into existence in the future. The demand for these cards that is on the reserve list is so much greater than the supply that is out there. There simply are not enough. It makes it so that Legacy is not only dying, but completely prohibitive to get into. The reserve list was a promise, yes, but the sign of true failure in a person is when they say something and then, after realizing and recognizing that it is wrong, do not change in order to be correct. Josh, you are going to present a very unpopular opinion now, I believe, but I'd like to remind everyone that this is a two-sided issue and that both sides do in fact have merit. Josh, you have 90 seconds.
Listen, I'm going to start off by saying I don't like the reserve list either. I think it was a mistake also. That's not the question. The question is, we're here now. What's the best thing we can do moving forward? And I think that from this point, getting rid of the reserve list will actually do more harm than good. The juice wouldn't be worth the squeeze, as they say. the collectible card game business model is a lot of ways built on value of cards. They're like lottery tickets, right? Everybody knows you buy packs, you're hoping to get the jackpot. Well, if there's no value in the cards, there's no jackpot. They're not lottery tickets. That's not a piece of the game. I mean, Magic is branded in a lot of ways based on like these really valuable cards. Black Lotus is a mythical, not rarity, but just like everybody knows about it. People who don't play Magic know about Black Lotus. But that card value is based on artificial scarcity, right? They can print whatever they want on that piece of cardboard, but they don't. And we trust that they won't, because as soon as they break that trust, then cards can plummet in value. You used a great example, Prof, which is Chronicles. Chronicles as a set, I was around for it. I don't think people understand. What happened is they printed a bunch of cards, and then cards that weren't even printed plummeted in value. Because if you were there and you're holding a Black Lotus and you're like, well, this is worth $50 or whatever it was at the time, but they could print it into the ground tomorrow. I can't do anything about that. I better sell it right now and get the heck out of this game that I've invested thousands in, because they can blow away my investment in a heartbeat at a moment's notice. Those who don't pay attention to history are doomed to repeat it. We need to pay attention to history.
If the reserve list is so important, then why have we never added any cards to it? We can reprint Liliana of the Veil and Snapcaster Mages into the ground tomorrow. Why are they not added onto the reserve list? Why? Because that would be one of the worst moves that Wizards of the Coast could make, expanding the reserve list to include recent cards. This is something that is keeping money from being made for the company. It is keeping people from playing the game. Formats, for example, such as Legacy, which are being killed off because players want to play it but cannot get their hands on the product, and the company can indeed make the product but is keeping itself from doing so. That is not good business. All right, Josh, it looks like the final word of the night is to you. What is your response?
Something that gets a little bit overlooked in all of this is if you're Wizards and you do something like abolish the reserve list and the prices of things do plummet, which I think everyone agrees will happen to some degree, then who are you punishing in that instance? Your greatest supporters, the people that have been with you for the longest amount of time. And yeah, you're saying like, oh, newer players will have a chance to get this stuff. That's a little bit fool's gold, right? Because if I'm a new player and I come into the game at a point where all the stuff, like Black Lotus used to be worth $35,000 and now it's worth $5, then what does that tell me as a new player? Don't invest too much in this game as far as money-wise, because they can just do that at any point. So you got old players who are leaving because they're mad because their value got blown away, and you got new players who are hesitant to invest on the same level. Who's that good for? How's that good business?
And there you have it, the topics for this week. But what would you like to see our response to next? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure that you are suggesting a two-sided argument, meaning something that it is reasonable for Josh and myself to argue either side of. And you may see your topic of choice argued on the next in response. Josh Lee Kwai, as always, with me here on the show. Josh, why don't you tell people where to find you?
Yeah, you can go ahead and go over to my YouTube channel called The Command Zone. I co-host a podcast with Jimmy Wong. You can find that Twitter account at CommandCast. I am at Josh Lee Kwai.
And I am at Tolarian College, and you are at Tolarian Community College. You can, of course, hit that subscribe button here if you haven't already for more in response. And in the meantime, we will see you later.
It was a lot of fun, guys. See you next time.
Oh, we're still going there. And this video has been brought to you in part by a sponsorship from Card Kingdom, as well as the Patreon support of viewers like you. So thank you.